Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. So we are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik. Hey, we're on the bottom of Nun Vav Amid Beis. We're in Siman Taf Nun Tes, and we're holding on the bottom line of the Shulchan Aruch on Nun Vav Amid Beis in Seif Gimel. Says the Mechaber, Im ha'isha shehilasha hi mikatefes b'mayim. If the woman who is kneading the dough is massaging or basting or smearing the surface of the dough with water, and we'll discuss why you would do that in a moment. She should not use the water that she uses to cool off her hands, because that water is warmed up by her hands, and when she puts it on the dough, she's going to warm up the dough. So what's at play over here is like this. We're going to see that there was a minig, and the Mishnah Berurah is going to say that l'chatchila, maybe it should even be done now, which was that the person who's kneading the dough, he's always working with his hands very, very quickly in the dough, and his hands become warm. And therefore, he would have a keli, he would have a vessel of cold water that he would dip his hands into to cool off his hands, so that when he goes and he kneads the dough, he's not warming up the dough. They also would take water, cold water, and they would smear the surface of the dough with cold water. And from the Aruch HaShulchan, it sounds like the reason they did this was also to cool down the dough. In case the dough got warm, we want to slow down the chimutz process, so they would smear the surface of the dough with cold water. What the Mechaber is telling us over here is, if this woman is kneading dough for matzah, and she has these two different kelim of water, she has a keli of water that she uses to cool off her hands, she should not use that water to smear the surface of the dough, because that water is warmed up by her hands. She's always taking her warm hands and sticking them in over there to cool her hands off. So that water is absorbing the heat of her hands. Instead, if she wants to put cold water on the surface of the dough, she should have a separate keli where she has cold water, and she just dips her hand in quickly and massages the surface of the dough with cold water. And this is how the Mechaber continues on the top of Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Ella, rather, she should not use the water that she's using to cool off her hands. Ella, rather, Yehela Kli Acher Moli Mayim. She should have a second keli full of cold water. And that's the water that she should use to go smear the surface of the dough with cold water. Hagad, the Ramah says, Umihu, if she does not use water to cool off her hands at all, mutter, it's okay. You don't, but certainly you do not have to immerse your hands in cold water to cool off your hands when you're kneading the dough. Okay, now let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah on the bottom of Nun Vav Amid Beis and Ois Katan Chav Daled, the Mishnah Berurah says mikatefes. What does this mean? Mikatefes, Ritzayin Loimar. What the Mechaber wants to say is Shetacha Penei Acharora B'mayim, that she bastes or smears the top of the dough with water. Ois Katan Chav Hei Shemitzanenes. She should not use the water that she uses to cool off her hands. Because the Mishnah Berurah says, lechatchila, you're supposed to have cold water that you immerse your hands into to cool off your hands. Misham dahayadayim mischamimim, because the hands get very warm. Meroiv ha'esek, from all the work that you're doing with your hands, kneading the dough. Umischame moyisa me'ayadayim, and the dough might become warmed by your hands. So just like all the other things that we've seen, we use mayim shalanu so that the water shouldn't have any residual heat from the sun in it. We make sure not to expose anything to the sun. We don't need the matzah in the sun. We stay away from the oven. So also over here, we're worried about heat from your hands. So lechatchila, it says that there should be water to cool off the hands before you knead the dough. But you should not use that water to smear the surface of the dough. Instead, the Mechaber said, Ella Yehela, she should have another keli with water in it that she uses to base the top of the dough. Ella Yehela, uva medinos elu nayagin shaloy liktaif hamatzos b'mayim. And in our medinos, the Mishnah Berurah says, we don't have this minig to baste the surface of the dough with cold water. And from the Aruch HaShulchan, again, it sounds from the Aruch HaShulchan that the reason they did this was to cool down the dough. And the Aruch HaShulchan says that by us, it's not necessary because we roll out our matzahs very, very, very thin, and we're not afraid that those thin matzahs have so much heat in them absorbed that you have to somehow rub it with cold water to remove the heat. Now we go to Ois Katan Chav Zayin. V'loi tzinana. The Ramah said that b'diavad, if a woman did not use water to cool off her hands, it's okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'hu adin. Similarly, im avra v'kitva samatis b'mayim shetzinin al yadeha. So too, the same way it's okay b'diavad if you didn't cool down your hands in the water, it's also okay b'diavad if you smeared the surface of the matzah using the water that you used to cool off your hands. Gam kein nira l'chayra shemuter b'diavad. That's also okay b'diavad. If you used that water, that's okay. V'da. And now the Mishnah Berurah says you should know. The yesh paiskim, that there are paiskim, and he brings this down from the Ran, the Rav Magid, the Rabbeinu Chananel. It seems, he says in the Shari Tzion, that this is also the opinion of the Rambam. The Dan, you should know. The yesh paiskim disvira lahu, there are paiskim that hold. The loy matzrechinan klal litzanein hayadayim b'shas lisha afilu lechatchila. There are paiskim, and we just brought down a list of Rishonim, that hold that there is no need to cool down your hands during the lisha process. You do not have to have this keli of cold water to immerse your hands in cold water to cool down your hands. And even lechatchila, we don't require you to cool off your hands, unless the same person that's doing the kneading of the dough is also the baker. If the person who's doing the kneading of the dough is also the same individual who's putting the matzahs in the oven, so then every time he goes to the oven, he's approaching the oven and he's getting his hands very hot. So his hands are going to be hot. If he then goes to knead the dough, he's going to heat up the dough with his hot hands. So in the case where that's the same person, then he has to immerse his hands in cold water to cool them off. That's why the Chachamim had this concern that if the baker and the kneader are the same person, he should cool down his hands. In the Dirshu, in footnote number 27, he brings down from the Kaf HaChaim, Ubizmanenu Kasav Kaf HaChaim, in our days the Kaf HaChaim writes, She'ein noyagim shahalosh hu ha'oife. We have a custom that we do not allow the kneader and the baker to be one and the same person. They have to be two separate people. The Kasvu Shekain HaMinig Shalal Hachmir, back in the Mishnah Berurah, the Paiskim write that the minig is that we're not machmir to dip your hands into water to cool them off. Umiu calls that stam. However, the Chavetz Chaim says that's in a normal case. If the kneiter who's kneading the dough feels that hands are warmed up, then certainly he has to put his hands in water to cool them off. Now the Chavetz Chaim says, the Mishnah Berurah writes that we should be machmer. It's the opinion of many Rishonim. He says over here that we should use water to cool off the hands. Lamaisa, I've never seen this. The kneiter, by me, the one who kneads the dough, he goes kneading dough after dough after dough. He does not cool off his hands in water between the doughs. He does, of course, wash his hands between each 18-minute shift, but during the kneading process, at no time does he ever cool down his hands in water. Okay. Now we go, Nun Zayin Amud Aleph in the Shulchan Aruch, we go to Siv Dalet. Says the Mechaber, Imlash achar zman iser chametz. Let's say you're baking matzah shel mitzvah on Erev Pesach, and you're kneading the dough on Erev Pesach after the zman iser chametz. So now you're working with dough at a time that chametz is already osir. Imlash achar zman iser chametz. If you're kneading dough after the zman of iser chametz, elu hamayim. These waters that we've been discussing in this previous Seif, the water that the kneader uses to cool down his hands, and the keli that has the water that he uses to baste the surface of the dough. Elu hamayim, im shar hamayim, together with the other water, sharoichetzim bahem ha'areva, that they use to wash and clean out the kneading trough. Lo yishbechem ela b'makay madron. You should pour them out on a sloped surface, so that the water should not pool together and sit there and become chametz. What's the problem here? You have water, you're kneading dough, your hands are full of flour and pieces of dough, and now you immerse your hand in a bowl of water. Now you go back and you need more dough, and you immerse your hands in water. So this keli, this bowl of water, is going to have water and flour and pieces of dough in it. Also, you have water that you use to wash out the kneading bowl. That water also has flour and dough in it. Now, if you take this water, remember, it's after the Zman Isser Chametz. If you take this water, they didn't have running water in a sink. You take this water and you pour it out on the ground in your chutzner, in your yard. If this water pools together, the dough and the flour that's in that water is going to become chametz, and it's on your rishus, it's in your property. So now you have chametz in your rishus. You'll be over. You'll be over by your rabbi yamatzeh. So therefore, the Shulchan Aruch says, if you're working after the Zman Isser and you have this water, you should throw it out onto a makay madron. You should throw it out onto an earthen sloped surface so that the water runs away. It doesn't pool up. And what will happen is either the water is going to get absorbed by the ground, or as it's running away, maybe the birds will come and drink it up or what have you, but it will not pool together and sit there in a pool where it's going to become chametz. Let's see this in the Mishnah Berurah. Ais katan chav ches. Achar zman. He's talking over here in the Mechaber, if you're in a case where you're kneading the dough after the zman of Isser Chametz. The kaidem zman isurai. If you're working before the Zman Isser Chametz, if you're baking matzahs a month before Pesach, or a day before Pesach, 2 days before Pesach, then you could go ahead and you could throw it out, and it doesn't matter if it's going to pool. Now, why doesn't it matter if it's before the Zman of Isser? So if we go back to Siman Tuf Mem Hey, if we go back to Tuf Mem Hey, Siv Gimel, we'll see, Tuf Mem Hey, Siv Gimel. We have over here, the Mechaber says, Koidim Zmani Surai, before the Zman of Isser Chametz, Yachal Lahashlichai, you're allowed to throw Chametz, B'makayim Sheha'arvim Mitzuyim Sham, in a place where the birds will come and consume it. If you find it extant over there after this Zman of Isser, so then you have to be mevared, then you have to get rid of it. But like if it's before the Zman of Isser, I could throw my chametz out if I know that there are birds and other animals there that will consume it, and I don't have to worry about it. The same thing over here. What the Mishnah Berurah is saying is, if it's before the Zman of Isser and you pour this water out in the chutzner, we're not concerned. The birds will come and the birds will drink it. That's the first opinion here in the Mishnah Berurah. However, if you go weiter in the Mishnah Berurah in Chav Ches, he says, "V'das habach v'hataz." However, it's the opinion of the Bach and the Taz, that even before the Zman of Isser, you're not allowed to throw the water that has this dough and flour in it into your chutzner, unless it's a sloped area. Why do the Bach and the Taz disagree? I believe the reason the Bach and the Taz disagree is because back in Tuf Mem Hey, we actually had a machlokes, and it was brought down in the Mishnah Berurah, in Ois Cotton Yud Zion. That's on Chaf Amid Beis. It's Siman Tuf Mem Hey, Siv Gimel, Mishnah Berurah, Ois Cotton Yud Zion. The Mishnah Berurah said over there, V'ayin la'el b'simen taf lamed gimel sivav shehataknu dedas kama achronim. We brought down over there, that's the opinion of many achronim, the din zeh einay ela b'rechoiv, that this din, that you're allowed to throw chametz vadai out before the zman of iser, assuming that the birds are going to eat it, that's only in the street, shehu makom hefker, v'loy b'chatzeroi, but not in your chutzner. In your chutzner, you can't throw this chametz stick of water out, even if you're going to assume that the birds are going to eat it. It's chametz vadai. You can't throw it out in your chutzner, and if it sits in your chutzner after the zman of iser, you're going to be over. So apparently that's why the Bach and the Taz over here disagree. Okay, Chavtes, Elo Hamayim, what the Mechaber said, these waters, which waters are we talking about? Which Loimar, what the Mechaber means to say is, Hamayim Shemakatif Bem Shemetzanin is Yadav. We're talking about the water that you use either to cool off your hands from the lisha, or the water that you're using to massage the surface of the dough to cool down the dough. Ois Kat Lamet, what's the problem over here? Why do you have to worry about this water? So the Mechaber said, Kedei Shalai Yiskaptzu, so that the water should not pool up and become a chametz. Now, why is that a problem? Because the chametz is yours. We're talking here after the zman of iser. You're throwing water that contains chametz in it out into your yard, so that's chametz in your rishus, and you're going to be over. Umiyu, however, if you want to take this water out to the street and pour it out onto the street, that's no problem. What are you worried about? You're worried that in 18 minutes from now, that water is going to become chametz? The dough and the flour that's combined with that water is going to become chametz 18 minutes from now? So what? What's the problem? You already threw this water out to the street. You are mafker it. If it becomes chametz after you are mafker it, we don't care. However, there is another opinion that holds that it's not even proper to throw this water out into the Rishos Harabim. Shaloi b'makay madrain, unless it's on a sloped surface where it will flow and have time to get absorbed in the earth. The kevanchu b'zman iser chametz, because remember, we're talking about already after the zman of iser. Yesh lo ledaktek beperurei b'tekai shaloi yavayu lidei chimutz. This second opinion, which in the Sharetzion he brings down from the Magen Avram, he holds that if you're after the Zman Iser Chametz and you have crumbs of dough that are standing to become Chametz, it's not sufficient for you to just throw it out into Rishos Harabim and say, I don't care if it becomes Chametz after I'm after it. You have a responsibility to make sure that your dough is not going to become Chametz. So you have to throw it on a Mokkah Madroin where it will run and slowly get absorbed into the ground. Okay. Now we go back up to the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see the Ramah. The Ramah says, by me it's 4 lines down near the middle of the line, right by the ice cut and lamed bays for the Mishnah Berurah. Hagah, says the Ramah, the various utensils and items that you use to prepare the matzos, and the knife that you use to cut the dough into pieces that are going to become the matzos. You should scrape them continuously during the preparation of the matzah, so that no dough should adhere to those kalim. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, Ice Cut Lamed Beis. The Mishnah Berurah says, "V'hakalim." Which vessels are we talking about here? What utensils are we talking about? Hainu ha'arevos, the kneading bowls, the eitzim ha'agulin she'archin behem hamatzos, and the rolling pins that you use to roll out the matzos. V'haredlach, and the radler she'menakrin behem hamatzos, the implement that you use to make the holes in the matzah. All of these items should be cleaned continuously. V'ayin b'prima gadim she'kasav, the nachayin l'pa'amim livdoik v'lirois kam hamarde shemachnisin by hamatzos latana remain alehabotzek. You should also check the shovel. We don't do it this way. We use a pole. We have the raw matzahs flapped over a pole, and we put the pole into the oven and then roll the matzahs onto the floor of the oven. They did it more like the pizza people do it. They had a piece with a flat piece on the end, like a shovel, and they shoveled the matzah into the oven. So the Chavetz Chaim is telling you here that shovel should be checked from time to time to make sure that there's no dough from the unbaked matzah stuck to the surface of that shovel. If you're dealing with a very soft, mushy, sticky dough, nidbak aleha batzek. Sometimes dough will stick to that marda. When should you be checking it? So the language of the Ramah was that you should check all of these implements b'shas ha'asiyah, during the time of the making of the matzahs. B'shas ha'asiyah, says the Chavetz Chaim, hainu bein kol isa v'isa l'nat kaisam. Between each dough, right? You're working with dough. You rolled out a matzah. Now, before you roll out the next one, check the rolling pin. There's no dough stuck. The same thing. You make holes in a matzah. Check to make sure that there's no batzek. The afal pisha ein shayin shemil ben kol isa v'isa. Now, even though you're not going to have 18 minutes between each dough, v'nimtza sha'batzek adavik b'kelim einay shaya b'lo yesek. So you're never going to have an 18-minute period where the dough that might be stuck to the rolling pin sat for 18 minutes without being used. You rolled out a matzah. Now you finished rolling out the matzah. While you were rolling out the matzah, any dough that was stuck to the rolling pin will become chametz because it's asek gomer. You're working it. Now you have a pause. So let's say you have a pause of 30 seconds. Now you start rolling out the next matzah. Then maybe after that matzah, you'll have another 30-second pause. But you have an 18-minute pause between each matzah. So why do I have to check it? Afal Pikain, says the Mishnah Berurah, he refers us back to Siv Beis, where the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah said that it's possible that all of these pauses combine with each other. And if all of these pauses can combine to 18 minutes, then you could have a problem. Again, the way we do it, generally speaking, in our bakeries, it can't possibly combine to 18 minutes because the whole shift is only 18 minutes. It's less than 18 minutes. So within about 17 minutes, the shift is over, and now the rolling pin is going to be taken and is going to be cleaned. So even if all the pauses that happened during the shift would combine, you still cannot have a sheer mill. Okay. You know what? We're going to pause here in the Mishnah Berurah. So let's remember that we're 4 lines down by the brackets in the Mishnah Berurah, and we're going to go back up to the Ramah. Let's go back up to the words of the Ramah. The Ramah says, he said, and now the Ramah continues and he says, after you finished making the matzahs, yadichem, you should wash all of the implements, v'yenagveim heitev, and dry them off very well, lachzar ulasakein behem pam shenis, if you're going to want to use these implements to bake matzahs again. You finished your baking for now, and now you want to put all these implements away, but you're going to want to bake matzahs again later. So you have to make sure to wash off all of the implements and dry them very, very well to make sure that there's nothing stuck over there that's going to become chametz. And this washing process is a lot better than just scraping it or scouring it. Because just by scouring it, you can't clean it well enough. You have to wash it. And somebody who's stringent, Yigraraim, should scrape them, and then wash them. You should do both. Ubiyamtiv, and if you're doing this on Yamtiv, remember we said that they would bake matzahs on Yamtiv. So if you baked matzahs on Yamtiv, and now you want to be able to bake matzahs again later on Yamtiv, so you're cleaning all of your implements, or let's say you're not baking a second time. You baked one time on Yamtiv, you don't intend on baking again. That's really the case the Ramah is going to be addressing here. So you baked matzahs on Yamtiv, and now you want to put these kalim away. But you have to make sure that they're clean from any dough. Otherwise, that dough is going to become chametz, and it's in your rishus. You can be over by your rabbi your matzah. So therefore, says the Ramah, Ubi Yomtiv, on Yomtiv, how are you going to clean these kalim? You can't wash them, because since you're not going to use them again on Yomtiv, it's not tzarich Yomtiv for you to wash them. If it's not tzarich Yomtiv for you to wash them, then you're not allowed to wash those dishes and those implements on Yom Tov because that's Tirchi Yisera. You're not allowed to do that on Yom Tov. So what do? Over Yom Tov mutar la'asaisai al yedei eino Yehudi. What you could do is you could ask a non-Jew to do it because that would be Amira la'akum on a shvus. Washing the dishes that are not a tzarich Yom Tov is only an Issa D'Rabbanan. Amira la'akum is an Issa D'Rabbanan. So this is a Amira la'akum on a shvus, but Makkah mitzvah is mutter. So you can ask a non-Jew to clean those kalim. Then ein eino Yehudi. If you don't have a non-Jew available to do it, Yatileim l'tzainain, put these kalim in cold water, which will arrest the chimus process and make sure that the dough on the kalim does not become chametz. Or yitneim latanor, or stick them in the oven. Sheyafa abet abotzei sha'aleim, so that the dough that's on them will actually get baked. I'm going to continue a little bit further in the Ramah, and then we'll do the Mishnah Berurah. Let's say you have a kneading bowl that you used on Yom Tov, and now you want to clean it out because it has dough in it that might become chametz. So we said the problem is if you're not going to use this bowl on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to wash it. So you need a non-Jew. Let's say you don't have a non-Jew, so you could stick it in the oven, or says the Ramah, it's a bowl. You could put apples in it. So if it's a kneading bowl that you could use on Yom Tov in some other way, you could put apples or fruit in it or what have you, then mutar lahadiach. Then you're allowed to wash it because then you're going to use the bowl on Yom Tov. Similarly, any other kalim that you have that do have another Yom Tov use after this point in time, so then you could wash them because it's Tzarech Yom Tov. You want to clean it so that you're not going to use it to bake matzahs anymore, but you could use it for something else on Yom Tov. Now we'll go back into the Mishnah Berurah. We're in the second column of the Mishnah Berurah. By me, it's 4 lines down. The first word on the line, it's by the brackets. Uma shekasav la'achar asiya. Now that the Ramah starts to address what you should do after the baking is over. Till now, the Ramah was talking about in middle of the baking. The Ramah had said that in middle of the baking, you should constantly check all the implements that you use to make sure that they do not have dough stuck on them. And if they do, you should just scrape them off. Now, when the Ramah is talking about after the baking of the matzahs, we're talking about the end of this baking session. You finished baking matzahs. You also have to wash your hands because your hands might have dough on them. And the kneading trough. And you have to make sure to wipe it out well between each dough. Our custom, says the Chavetz Chaim, nowadays is the woman who kneads the dough should wash her hands. And similarly, they should wash the kalim that they use for the kneading process after they prepared 2 or 3 doughs, to make sure that you don't have 18-minute time span from the time that you first kneaded a dough in this keli and on. You want to make sure that at least once every 18 minutes it gets washed out well. And certainly that's what we do. We break the shift every less than 18 minutes, and we wash everything down and dry everything down thoroughly. And also the ones that are rolling out the matzahs. They have to make sure that there's no dough stuck on their hands. They also have to break within 18 minutes and make sure to wash their hands very well. And they have to check under the fingernails to make sure there's no dough stuck under the fingernails. We also have to check the rolling pins and make sure that the rolling pins don't have dough stuck on them every 18 minutes. And the reidlach, the implement that makes the holes in the matzah, has to be checked to make sure there's no dough stuck to it. And to change them, or to scrape off any chametz that might be on them within this time period of 18 minutes. So too, the tablecloths, or by us, it's paper that you use to cover the tables. You have to change those every 18 minutes. And in places where they cannot cover the tables, we're rich. We use miles and miles and miles and miles of paper. to cover the tables. My father told me that in the matzah bakery in Salish, they had I believe he told me it was marble, the table, and where they made the holes in the matzah was glass, and they would scrape it down and clean it every 18 minutes. So he says over here, if they rolled the matzah straight on the tables, they would scrape it off with sharp glass within this time period of 18 minutes. The kasrach, right? I mean, the proper minig is there should be doubles of the kneading troughs. There should be two of them. When you're using the second one, somebody should be washing the first and drying it out well. The proper minig is there should be a trustworthy mashgiach in the matzah bakery who is watching over the entire process. Kiraba hamachshela ma'oid, because there's many places over here where there could be a michshol, where could be a stumbling block, there could be a problem that crops up, and we can have a chash of chimutz. So by us, we start a shift, we set a clock. The clock runs approximately 17 minutes. And we're starting off that 17-minute period. You have fresh paper on the table. You have fresh rolling pins. Everybody has clean hands. You have fresh kneading bowls. You have fresh, we don't use knives or anything else to cut the dough. We do everything by hand. The big sticks that go into the oven are fresh sticks. Everything is all fresh at the beginning of the shift. During the shift, the women do check their rolling pins and knock off any dough. Happens to be that in my bakery, we use a very dry dough. It's not a very sticky dough. So we don't get a lot of dough stuck on anything at all. At the end of the shift, the table cover, all of the paper is taken off. All of the rolling pins are taken away to be cleaned. Fresh rolling pins go out. Everybody has to wash their hands. All the hands are checked. All the fingernails are checked. The big sticks are taken out of service. New big sticks come in. The old big sticks are cleaned. The reidlach, we have doubles of the implements that we use to make the holes. The old ones are taken and cleaned very well. New ones are taken out to be used for the next shift. Everything is new. Everything is fresh. You can't possibly have 18 minutes because the whole shift is only 18 minutes. And again, and it goes like this the whole day. The next shift, everything is new. Everything is clean. Everything is fresh. Ois cotton lamed daled. He says you should scrape it and wash it. When you finish the baking, you're cleaning everything. You should scrape everything off and then wash it. The marde, he says, you do not have to wash. The marde is the implement that you used to put the matzahs in the oven. Al yedei nachri. If you're not baking anymore, so you have to wash everything, you have to ask a non-Jew to do it. Because washing dishes on Yom Tov is an issa d'Rabbanan. If you're not going to use those dishes anymore, so it's not a tzarich Yom Tov. If you ask a non-Jew to do it, have a shvus d'shvus. So now it's a double d'Rabbanan. It's an issa d'Rabbanan, and Amir la'akum is an issa d'Rabbanan, so it's two d'Rabbanans. V'shari b'makam mitzvah. Shvus d'shvus b'makam mitzvah is mutter. Kamasha kasav Siman Shin Zayin Sif Hey. We hearken back to our days of Hilchos Shabbos in Siman Shin Zayin Sif Hey. Or yatilem with tzainon. If you don't have a non-Jew to wash the implement, dip them in cold water. Shat tzainen ma'akiv malahachmitz, because the cold water will arrest the chimos process. Ukidel el b'simin tafton zayin sif beis. V'yachbid oisam, and if you are dunking kalim in cold water to arrest the chimos process, you have to make sure to weigh them down so that they stay submerged in the cold water. Otherwise, the kalim are going to float up, and part of it is going to be sticking up out of the water, and then once again, the chimos process will begin. This all applies in a case where you're no longer baking today. But if you're going to bake matzahs again, remember, we're talking on Yom Tov, in the days when they used to bake matzahs on Yom Tov. So if you baked matzahs early in the day on the first day Yom Tov, and now later in the day you're going to bake matzahs again, then you're allowed to wash the dishes. Then you don't need a non-Jew, then you could wash them because it's tzarich Yom Tov. but to scrape them on Yom Tov is always usher. And if you look in the Sharitzion, it's cut memhei. He says mishom losad mamachik, because it is similar to the malacha of mamachik, of rubbing something off. Ice cut lam Zion, the other eitzah that the Ramah said to prevent chimutz from happening with the dough stuck on these kalim is a yitname latanor. Take the keli, take the rolling pin, and stick the rolling pin in the oven. So any dough that's stuck to the rolling pin will bake, and it won't become chametz. Says the Mishnah Berurah, not so simple. You can't bake, you can't eat that dough that gets baked on the rolling pin. What are you talking about here? You're talking about a clump of dough that's stuck onto a rolling pin, or a clump of dough that's stuck on a knife, or a clump of dough that's stuck on the implement that you use to make the holes in the matzahs. Now you're taking the rolling pin or the knife or this implement and you're throwing it in the oven. The part of the dough that's exposed to the fire is going to get well baked, but maybe the side that's stuck to the keli or that's stuck inside a crevice in the keli, maybe that's not going to get well baked. So you definitely can't eat this dough that's stuck to the keli. Now, wait a second. So now, says the Mishnah Berurah, the whole idea over here was throw the implement in the oven so that the dough should get baked and shouldn't become chametz. The Achrayim don't really like this eitzah. He brings down the Chayk Yaakov in the name of the Maril, the El Yerabah, the Yashar, the Pri Megadim. They don't like this eitzah. The Kaven Day Nachan Lechel Asanefa the Chanal. Since we just said that you can't eat this baked dough, the Gamin Kavanosai Lechel, and certainly he has no intent to eat this dough. In Kain Hu Afir Shaloi L'Tzarich Ta'aser. So how are you allowed to bake it on Yom Tov? It's Afir Shaloi L'Tzarich. It's not mutter. It's aser. He says, there is another eitzah. You could rely on bittul and be mavatal the chametz, but be mavatal the dough before it becomes chametz. Or take the keli with the dough stuck to it and give it to your non-Jewish neighbor as a gift so that you shouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, we're going to stop over here. So we're now in Nun Zayin Amud Beis. Everybody should be well. The Rebbeinu Shalom should shik Yeshuas and refuahs to all those who need it. Everybody who's suffering, everybody who's not well should have a refuah shalema, b'karev. Nobody else should get sick, and this whole thing should be past us very quickly. And like I keep on saying, we should all have in mind different things to be makabel on ourselves, that we should come out on the other side of this much improved. We should be better people for it. We should be a better community for it. We should be a better Klal Yisrael for it. The Rebbeinu Shalom should be happy with us. The Rebbeinu Shalom should have Rachmanus on us. The Rebbeinu Shalom does love us, but the Rebbeinu Shalom should be happier with us after than he was before, and the after should be now. It should be over in 5 minutes. Everybody be well. Thank you so much for joining me for Torah Learning. Be well. Have a good night.